It looks solid. Professional photography? Really? Let's check what this black hole can do. Oh, not bad. Ultra-wide cam? So nice. What about telephoto lens? No, try closer. I said closer. 10x, 20x. How the hell does he do it? Portrait mode, night portrait, astrophotography, supermoon, macrophotography. Take more photos, more and more. Unleash your creativity. Try different angles. Try different compositions. Don't stop shooting. Just don't stop it now. Vivo X100 Pro is a smartphone that should have a warning message on its box, just like cigarette packs. If your needs are not limited to taking photo of the electricity counter once a month, you are always notice a beauty around and want to share it with your camera, this phone will be definitely not disappoint you. But wait, won't disappoint is a too boring term to describe all my user experience. Probably just like me, you will keep your mouth wide open and repeat.
Oh my god! Wow!
Wow. Wow. Wow.
You know, when I watched the first reviews where Vivo destroys Galaxy S24 and iPhone 15, even in video recording, I was quite skeptical. The Chinese simply flooded bloggers with money, didn't they? Well, they probably did. If Vivo was one of the main sponsors of Euro 2024, there will be definitely some extra money for YouTube bloggers. But after using this phone for a while, a phone that I bought with my own money, I can definitely say that this camera is amazing. If you are switching to Vivo from a budget smartphone or even from a flagship of previous years, the difference will be noticeable even for the naked eye. Just look at how Vivo destroys Galaxy S21 in nighttime video. Let me remind you, Galaxy S21 was one of the best camera phones just a few years ago. Sure, it's not a sensation that the Sony's 1-inch sensor will capture more light at night. I'm not going to praise the astrophotography either. This mode was on Google phones for the last 5 years. And even the moon drawn by AI is not a unique feature. My video is not a classic review. You wouldn't find here PWM or throttling test here, but there are a few more things that tech bloggers are keeping silent about. But before moving to cons, let's talk about camera. This is why this phone was created for. The camera interface. It has absolutely everything. Before, I used to think that Samsung camera interface was a benchmark of useful functionality compared to aesthetic apps in Google Pixel or iPhone. But Vivo is like a Pandora box. It is a real paradise for photographers. There's an instant shooting mode for moving objects, different scenarios for using long shutter speed, such as rod pulls, night graffiti, waterfalls, mysterious case, fireworks, starfalls. There's a classic astrophoto mode, an astro portrait mode, and even a planetarium mode. This is when you point the camera at a starry sky and the phone shows constellations in real time. Sure, native app also has a portrait mode, panorama, slow motion, document scanning and bunch of other things. The next thing that won me over is a telephoto lens. Probably just like you, I have seen all these press photos, all these YouTube reviews, so I already had a high expectations. And I can only confirm that this phone takes great photos even far away. Interestingly, if you shoot at the native focal length of 100mm, which is equivalent to 4.3x zoom, I can say that the images have phenomenal amount of details. But when you set to 10x or 20x, Vivo's processing algorithms kicks in and the result becomes much better. But let's be honest, the Galaxy S24 Ultra or iPhone 15 Pro Max are not far behind, but where they really suck are in macro photography with a telephoto lens. Honestly, I have never been a fan of macro photography, but with Vivo I started to explore nature like a little kid by taking pictures of flowers, beetles and bees in the garden. Just so you understand, the latest iPhone 15 Pro Max cannot focus on the telephoto lens closer than 19 cm from a subject, almost a meter away. At the same time, you can turn on zoom lens and place Vivo to a distance of 20–30 cm from a subject. By the way, this is not a portrait mode, this is a real optical blur. If I mention blur and portrait mode, let's focus on this, because this is the next thing that I'm impressed with. Firstly, it has 5 focal lengths: 24mm, 35, 50, 85 and 100mm. The first 4 options use crop from the main camera, and only after switching to 4.3x the telephoto lens is activated. And when it comes to open terrain, this is the only tool to get outstanding portraits. Take a look at these awesome photos of my daughter just using built-in wintered filter. Unlike other Chinese phones, filters here don't look like Instagram 10 years ago. There are some really interesting options. You can change not only the amount of blur, but also the bokeh styles that were developed in collaboration with Zeiss. So that you don't get confused in all this variety of settings, Vivo created 6 presets, which include color correction, bokeh and retouching. However, my recommendation is turn off retouching. It's too aggressive, it smooths everything that could be smoothed out. But what surprised me even more is the fact that Vivo remove moles and add makeup for men by default. Seriously, Vivo takes gorgeous portraits of not only people, but also animals and non-living objects. Surprisingly, portrait mode works in almost any conditions. Here I just tapped on the lines and Vivo simulated the depth of field quite natural, like it was taken on a professional camera with an open aperture. And finally, the feature that surprised me the most, the feature I didn't expect from Vivo at all. This is cinematic mode, or simply speaking, a video with blurred background. Interestingly, at the official launch event, nobody told enough information about this feature, and even tech bloggers were not verbose either. But I confidently say that this is the best cinematic mode among all Android smartphones. You can record in 4K 30fps, there are some really interesting presets and manual settings. You can adjust the intensity of blur and move focus from one object to another later in the gallery. You can record with the selfie camera, with the main camera and with telephoto lens. And for my opinion, cinematic mode on the selfie camera is just for fun. I also see no need for the main camera, because 1-inch sensor already gives you a nice optical blur. And only telephoto lens can give you a truly cinematic picture. Check out how natural the blur looks. It was filmed handheld at a distance of 3 meters. No extra editing, just a built-in retro filter. By the way, all this works on any objects and in any lighting conditions. Great job, Vivo! Unfortunately, I don't have iPhone 15 to compare these cinematic modes, but once again, I can confidently say that you wouldn't find anything better on any Android device. Well, let's move on to the cons. If you are going to buy this Vivo, please pay attention to this. It's quite subjective, but the con number 1 is Origin OS. When you turn on smartphone for the first time, Vivo doesn't even give you an option to choose English, everything in Chinese language, and every step I had to translate using Google Lens holding another smartphone. Yes, later in the settings you can change language to English, French, Spanish, but it takes a bit of pain to get to that point. Some tech bloggers rated Origin OS like a benchmark of Android skins. Honestly, I don't share their passion. Yes, Origin OS has its strengths, very smooth animation. I haven't noticed any bugs or freezes in a month of use. If, for example, Pixel Launcher is all about speed and minimalism, then Origin OS is a queen of fluid vibe. The possibilities for customization are endless. You can create any style of icons, change swipe animations, charging animation, and a bunch of always-on display settings. Sure, it's really cool, but the design lacks some kind of elegance, perfection, or at least attention to details like One UI or iOS. That's how all-new Origin OS based on Android 15 would look like. It's pretty, but it seems that the developers were inspired by iOS. After figured out the system, let's move to the next con. It sounds strange, but Vivo is a smartphone you can't rely on. Let me tell you my own story. One day, together with my family, we met famous Ukrainian travel bloggers and wonderful couple Max and Oля. And despite the fact that the sun was already setting behind the horizon and the portrait mode was set to 2x, which means it was a crop from the main camera, Vivo did a great job. And then Max said, "Let's take a selfie, give me a phone." Without leaving a portrait mode, I switched to the front-facing camera and gave Vivo to him. Max stretched out his hand, his smile quickly disappeared from his face, and he asked, "Why so dark and sky is completely blown out?" I said, No, don't worry, HDR will fix everything later." Honestly, sometimes it's hard to explain for an iPhone user why should a preview should be different from the final result. And yes, HDR activated perfectly, but what if we zoom in here?
Brother, what's that?
Let me remind you, the portrait mode was turned on, and Vivo clearly overdid here. It wanted to simulate depth of field, where Max is in focus, we are slightly out of the focus, and the background is even more blurred. But something went wrong. Here's take 2, and everything is the same. I thought, well, it's okay, you can probably change the intensity of blur later in the gallery.
No.
If you take photos in portrait mode on the main camera or on the telephoto lens, change it whenever you want. But there's no such option for the photos taken on selfie camera. By the way, the intensity of blur was set to a medium level. What kind of trash it would be with a strong intensity? I can't even imagine. I always wondered why tech bloggers praise Apple and Samsung cameras for their stability and reliability. I thought, why are you talking about reliability if all Chinese phones are technically better? Now I realized, no matter how well your smartphone takes pictures of a moon or night sky, you must be confident that this device won't let you down at a key moment. I'm not a developer or an IT guy, but I don't understand why it's so difficult to add blur control to the front-facing camera if it already works on other camera modules. I also don't understand why there is no way to record slow motion on a telephoto lens. I don't understand why I can't create panoramas with the ultra-wide camera. The Vivo team has developed the best cinematic mode on any Android smartphones, a bunch of features for photographers, and at the same time forgot about such obvious things. And finally, a few words about my user's experience. I have had different opinions about Vivo's vibrations. Some praised it, some say that it's not good at all. Well, I can say it all depends from which smartphone are you switching. If you're switching from flagship iPhone or flagship Google Pixel, yes, the haptic feedback would be not so pleasant. But if you are switching from a budget Galaxy A series, it's just day and night difference. And the same I can say about the speakers. The sound is nice and quite loud, but it just doesn't impress like a smartphone camera does. Most bloggers compare Vivo side by side with flagship from Apple and Samsung, and it seems to me like not a fair comparison. If you're looking at the smartphone as a quintessence of company's capabilities, the best what Vivo could do in 2023, then okay. But anyway, customers are looking for the top for its money, and to be fair, this phone in Europe cost $500 cheaper than Galaxy S24 Ultra and iPhone 15 Pro Max in similar memory configuration. And don't forget about AliExpress, where you can buy Chinese version just for $700. If you don't trust AliExpress, take a look at a secondary market, where you can buy it even cheaper. And choosing between Vivo X100 Pro in good conditions and, for example, 3 years old iPhone for the same price, for me personally, the winner is more than obvious. At the end of review, you expect to hear some verdict or recommendations. But not today. I just want to thank Vivo for the emotions that this phone has given me. Yes, it's not perfect, it can set you up when you don't expect it, but I promise you won't be emotionless. And this is important. Whatever you say, life is too short to use boring devices.